Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolute bedrock of microeconomics, supply and demand. And I'll tell you, this isn't just abstract theory. It's literally the invisible, dynamic engine driving every single transaction around us. We're going to map out exactly how buyers and sellers interact, and we'll really focus on graphing these behaviors so they become incredibly clear and visually intuitive for you. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Introduction to supply and demand. 2. Understanding the law of demand. 3. Determinants and demand shifts. 4. Understanding the law of supply. And 5. Determinants and supply shifts. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Introduction to supply and demand. So before we start drawing any graphs, we actually need to figure out where these interactions take place. Enter the market. Now, in economics, a market isn't necessarily a physical building or a grocery store. It's simply a group of buyers and sellers of a particular good or service. This is our arena. The buyers as a group determine the demand for the product, and the sellers as a group determine the supply. It's the fascinating interaction of these two distinct behaviors that we're going to be tracking today.
Section 2. Understanding the law of demand.
The whole foundation of buyer behavior is captured perfectly by this Colander quote. It states that the quantity of a good demanded is inversely related to the good's price. Notice that absolutely key word there, inversely. They move in opposite directions. When the price falls, the quantity demanded goes up. Price rises, quantity demanded decreases. But, and this is a big but, remember this assumes other things constant. That means nothing else in the world is changing except the price of this specific good. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at some actual hard data. This is Catherine's demand schedule for ice cream cones. Now, a schedule is really just a simple table showing the relationship between price and the quantity demanded. Just look closely at those numbers. When the price is free, $0, Catherine wants 12 whole cones, but as that price creeps up to 50 cents, $1, $2, her quantity demanded naturally drops. By the time a single cone costs $3, she wants 0. That inverse relationship is right there, clear as day in the raw data. And this brilliantly illustrates how we turn that raw data into a visual model, the demand curve. By putting price on the vertical axis and the quantity of ice cream cones on the horizontal axis, plotting Catherine's data points gives us this really distinct downward sloping line. If you lower the price, you literally just slide right down the curve, resulting in a higher quantity of cones demanded. This specific visual representation, it is easily the most powerful tool in all of microeconomics. Section 3. Determinants and demand shifts. Now, this is a concept you've got to carefully distinguish to avoid getting tripped up later. A change in the actual price of the ice cream cone only causes a movement along the existing demand curve. You just slide from one dot on the line to another. However, a shift in the entire demand curve, where the whole line physically moves left or right, is caused by a change in non-price factors. So what exactly are these non-price factors? Well, here is your clear roadmap. There are 5 specific determinants that will actually physically pick up the demand curve and shift its position. We've got changes in consumer income, the price of related goods, consumer tastes and preferences, buyer expectations, and the total number of buyers in the market. Let's break these down visually. First up is income. How a change in your income affects your demand completely depends on the type of good we're talking about. A normal good is one where demand rises when your income increases. Think of treating yourself by upgrading to a super premium ice cream. On the flip side, an inferior good is one where demand actually falls when your income increases. Like maybe you stop buying cheap instant noodles simply because you can finally afford better food. So the crucial point is how goods relate to one another. We basically have complements and substitutes. Complements are goods that are used together. For example, if the price of cars falls, people buy more cars, which then directly shifts the demand for petrol to the right. They go hand in hand. Substitutes, on the other hand, are interchangeable. If the price of Coke falls, people will buy more Coke and less Pepsi, effectively shifting the demand for Pepsi to the left. The remaining factors are honestly highly intuitive. A sudden positive change in tastes, like the massive hype around the latest iPhone release, will instantly shift that demand curve right. The exact same goes for favorable expectations about the future value of a product. Plus, simply increasing the sheer number of buyers in a market, say through demographic shifts or launching a product globally like a Samsung Galaxy Tab, well, that's naturally going to shift total market demand entirely to the right. All right, we've thoroughly mapped out the buyer's behavior. But a market is very much a two-way street, right? So what about the seller? What exactly is driving the other side of this whole equation? Section 4. Understanding the law of supply. The behavior of sellers is governed by the law of supply. This states that the quantity of a good supplied is directly related to its price. Now notice the stark contrast here. Demand was an inverse relationship, right? But supply is a direct relationship. As the price of a good increases, the quantity supplied increases right along with it. Why? Well, because higher prices simply offer much greater profit incentives for producers, assuming, of course, all other things remain constant. Let's move to Ahmed's supply schedule and see how this profit motive builds. Take a look at the table. At $0, or honestly even at 50 cents, Ahmed supplies 0 cones. It's just not worth his time or his materials. But as the price hits $1, he's willing to supply 1. At $3, he's ready to supply 5. The quantity strictly increases alongside the price. Plotting this out gives us our classic upward sloping curve, perfectly capturing that direct, profitable relationship.
Section 5. Determinants and supply shifts.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is that the fundamental logic here is the exact same as before, it's just flipped for the seller. A change in the actual price of the ice cream cone just moves us up or down along the existing supply curve. But if a non-price factor changes, the entire supply curve shifts physically. It moves to the left, which is a decrease in supply, or to the right, which represents an increase in supply.
So what are those non-price factors for the sellers? There are 4 main ones you need to remember. First, input prices. If the cost of milk goes up, it simply costs more to make ice cream, shifting supply left. Second, technology. Inventing a much faster ice cream machine makes production cheaper, shifting supply right. Third, the expectations of sellers regarding future market conditions. And finally, the total number of sellers operating in the market. More sellers naturally mean a shift to the right for overall market supply.
Okay, we've successfully mapped out both sides of the market coin, the downward slope of demand and the upward slope of supply. But I really want to leave you with a real-world question to cement this visual logic. Think about your own daily life. How might a sudden, massive change in today's technology shift the supply curve for a product you literally rely on every single day? Try to visualize that curve moving on the graph in your mind. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep looking for those invisible graphs all around you.